Hey guys, Kuzo here back with another video. In this video today I'm going to be redrawing an old Naruto piece I did when I was 16. This is the old Naruto piece I did when I was 16 in all of its glory. Oh gosh, it's so bad. In the last video that I redrew old art of mine, it was Goku, and I believe that illustration I was redrawing was from back when I was 10. I think I was like in 2000s. Drawing was very bad. very bad, and this drawing is pretty bad too. If you've already seen that video, you can kind of see a little bit of a comparison of kind of my improvement within those 6 years, and also the style shift of when I became a Naruto. Yeah, we can laugh now, but yeah, I was hardcore. So I thought it would be a little bit interesting for you guys if I talked a little bit about the history from that illustration when I was 10 to the illustration when I was 16. So when I was 10, I was drawing a lot of Dragon Ball Z, and you know, I was super into it. Naruto I don't believe came out back then at that point, so it was pretty much just Dragon Ball Z just dominating the market. So I pretty much just drew Dragon Ball Z mindlessly until about middle school. Middle school is where my art path was a little bit shaky. And this is a point in my life that I thought would be a little bit interesting to talk about, because it's kind of like a thing where you think the person was drawing since they're really young and they're just constantly drawing all the way up until, you know, now, the current day. But there was a point in my mid-teens where I kind of branched out into another hobby. I still drew during this whole period of time, but it was much less and I focused much more in this other hobby. And just in case you're wondering what the other hobby was, I decided to pick up skateboarding. So I ended up picking up skateboarding when I was 13. So when I did that, I found out I was much more athletically gifted than I was gifted at drawing. Picked up skateboarding pretty fast, and I actually was looking to try to, you know, make tapes and GoPro and all that stuff. And see, back then we didn't have phones that had cameras the way they do now. They had cameras, but it was nothing like it was now. And there also wasn't really what you would call social media in the sense that it is now. There was MySpace back then, but not like Instagram and stuff where you could literally record really good quality video on a phone or something and then just post it on the internet. So things might have went a little bit differently if I were to have gone over all that stuff again in this day and age with, you know, phones, cameras, and social media and stuff like that. But honestly, I don't think I would have gotten into skateboarding if I had social media and all that stuff nowadays, because I was so into anime that if I had the same kind of internet connection and just social media network and all the anime series that are available, I would have become much more obsessed with a bigger variety and catalog of anime than, you know, I was back then, because it was so limited. I think I would have got much more immersed into the whole anime scene, and I would have worked a lot harder at drawing because there would have been so much more tutorials. Like, YouTube wasn't a really big thing back then. There weren't like art tutorials online. I mean, I'm sure there were, but it wasn't obviously in your face kind of thing where you could literally type into YouTube how to draw this and a video would for sure be there. That's why sometimes I'm baffled a little bit by, you know, the access everyone has nowadays and how little it's really just about going out and doing it and finding it, and it's so easy. It's at the, you know, tips of your fingers. Like, what are you watching this video on? Probably a smartphone that was more capable of anything that I had when I was growing up. To jump back to the timeline of Kuzo's life, when I was in middle school, all this is all muddled. So I was like 13 or 14 when I was in middle school. I can't remember. But when I was in middle school, I did take an art class. So I was drawing. Like I said, I was still very interested in drawing. Like, if I wasn't skateboarding, I was drawing. If it was raining, I was drawing. And when I was younger, I lived in Washington State. So it rained quite often. And if you don't get the reference to why I'm saying raining, it's because you can't necessarily skateboard when it's raining, or at least if you did, you would kind of ruin your skateboard and your trucks and your bearings and stuff like that. And none of the friends I had back then really liked anime. I didn't know anybody who really liked anime back then, but I didn't really shy away from the fact that I liked Dragon Ball Z and Naruto. My friends were fine with it. They're like, oh yeah. When I think about skateboarding, you know, I could still remember the first time I tray flipped a 7-stair. That was a big accomplishment to me back then. To go back to the fact that I did go to an art class in middle school while I was skateboarding stuff, By the way, that art class, I did fail. But I mean, I was trying my hardest in it. I wanted to learn how to draw because I was still pursuing the idea of, possibly doing that for a living. But the better I got at skateboarding, the more immersed I got into wanting to try to do that for a profession. To the point where it started really becoming my identity, and then drawing became more of a hobby, and skateboarding became more of, something that I wanted to have become, a reality. And all that happened between 13 to 15. But right around the age when I was 15 to 16, I went to move from Washington State to Colorado. And we didn't take a plane or anything. Me and my mom were driving across the country. She was driving. I didn't have my license, but we were driving across the country, and we had all our stuff in our car. So we stopped by a relative's house in Oregon, and we planned to stay there for the night instead of like a hotel to, save on hotel costs and whatnot. And you might be like, Kuzo, what does this have anything to do with drawing? Why are you going into detail about this part? Don't worry, it's getting there. Like I said, I was super immersed into the world of skateboarding, and that became my identity. And I was really looking to try to become a professional skateboarder. So the relative's place we stayed at, they had a farm, and I have no idea how they had a farm, because let me tell you, the part of the family that I lived in, we definitely didn't have money for a farm. I was a poor little Kuzo. To continue the chronicle, they had a four-wheeler on the farm, and they're all like, hey, you want to try this out? And I was like, oh yeah, let me try riding this four-wheeler. So I was riding it around the farm, and they had these spots that were like this hill that kind of winded down, and there was a dirt road on the hill, and if you went off one of the edges, you were pretty much screwed. And guess what happened? I tried to dodge a pothole, and I looked ahead of me, and there was a turn, and I went off one of the hills. And at this point I had closed my eyes, and I don't know how this happened because I was on the top of the four-wheeler, but the four-wheeler somehow ended up landing on my leg, and then rolling down the hill, but it landed on my leg and it broke my leg. The bone it broke was the tibia, and it wasn't just like a fracture, the bone was completely broken in half. And the crazy part, I didn't even have any scratches anywhere else on my body. I had only broken my leg. Let me tell you, that pain was something else. But at that point, when I knew my leg was broken, it was like my reality shattered, because I knew what it meant for that part of my leg to be broken. I knew I wasn't going to be able to skateboard for quite a while. And I remember a lot during that period of time, but just to skip to the part when I was in the hospital, a lot of what I remember in the hospital before going into surgery was I remembered I was on my back and I had my pants down, and this hot nurse came up and she was like, all right, now don't tense your butt cheeks. I was like, I'm okay with this. And she stabbed me with the needle. And then before I knew it, I was out and I was waking up, and I had a cast on and stuff like that. So I had gotten a metal plate put in my leg to hold the bone in place, and was set on my way for it to heal. But during this period of time, because there was a plate in my leg, once it did start to heal, my leg wasn't the same. I couldn't skateboard the same. The plate actually hurt my leg when I would try to skateboard. This kind of forced me back into just really focusing on drawing and watching Naruto. And I look back and I say me breaking my leg is probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because I never would have really known how much I loved art if that didn't happen. But during the transition of realizing I wouldn't actually be able to be a professional skateboarder and transitioning into wanting to become a professional artist, basically that was a huge inner battle for me. It's really more than I have words to describe. It was really weird. That's also when I first got into the Naruto manga, and I found my passion for shonen manga more so than just Dragon Ball Z. And I fell in love with Kishimoto's work, and I read his little documentary things in between his manga chapters, and I figured out that's what I wanted to do for a living. And wouldn't change anything that happened. And to tie it all together, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to tell this story while drawing, specifically Naruto, because Naruto is really the story, and Kishimoto is the author and artist that really sent me on the path that I'm on now. Better believe I love my anime and mangas. Gosh, does it bother anyone else when people say manga? Manga! To tie up a little bit about that story, I ended up getting the plate out of my leg, and after it all healed up, I was able to skateboard without any pain again. So I started to skateboard here and there, but there was one gap that I tried to do, and I ate some pretty hard crap, and I hurt my hand quite a bit, and I realized I could have ended up breaking my arm or my hand or something. So in the end, even when I could skateboard, I decided to stop skateboarding because I wanted to pour my life into my art, and I didn't want anything to get in the way of that. But in any case, if you guys want to help support my arts, help support what I do on this channel, you guys can check me out on my Patreon or buy some prints, links in the description. But because of my long story, I actually don't have time to actually say everyone's name, but huge shout out to all my patrons. Thank all of you for the support. You guys are the best pencil shinobis there are. In any case, if you guys like this video, please hit that thumbs up button. And if you're new to this channel, like what you see, please subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notified when each video comes out. Like always, guys, hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.